my pants. Oh God, I messed my pants. Okay, Cherry, you stay on me like word on rice. You got it? You got it?
So it's been a while since I've done one of these. We are talking a Tour of Duty episode review. I was actually asked by a couple of times by some comments if I will be covering later seasons, so I always intended to at some point, but it's been a little while. So we are going to be talking Season 2, Episode 1, which is Saigon Part 1. But I want to talk briefly about the series as a whole, first of all. So the kind of feedback from the first season was that it was reasonably popular, but it really lacked a kind of a female audience. There wasn't many women tuning in to watch it. So the decision was taken to try and somewhat kind of change direction in this season by introducing kind of more female characters to hopefully attract a bigger kind of female demographic. It didn't really work, but that was the intention. So we had a couple of female characters introduced. One turns up in this episode, that being Alex Devlin, who is a reporter played by, I think it's Kim Delaney. And we also had another character, a regular sort of coming later on in the season as well. We also get a new lieutenant in this episode, McKay, who is a hot dog helicopter pilot, as a kind of a rival for Goldman. We have this kind of love triangle, really, and this is what I mean. To have this kind of love triangle between Goldman, McKay, and Devlin. And this season tried to kind of have more of a dramatic feel, a bit more of a kind of soap opera-ish kind of feel to it. It's considered, I think, by many to be the least out of the 3 seasons. However, I will say a commenter on one of my Season 1 videos did actually make the point that unlike Season 1, for example, Season 2 does have more of a through line in regards to kind of a narrative with characters, having story arcs over kind of multiple episodes compared to the much more episodic nature of kind of Season 1. It's also worth mentioning that the shooting of Season 2 and 3 is different to Season 1. Season 1 was actually shot in Hawaii and had the assistance of the National Guard, whilst Season 2 and 3 does not. It was actually shot on the set of the old MASH TV show, and didn't have the support of the US government like the first season. I'm not sure what that was. I couldn't find an exact reason, but I would assume because it did try to shine a light on some kind of negative aspects of the US military. I'm assuming that's probably why. So let's get on with the actual episode. So Season 1 was pretty much kind of mostly kind of action. Season 2 tries to have a little bit more drama, tries to have a little bit more of a personal kind of touch in it. And we get a lot more personal kind of stories in this season, and also setting up kind of future kind of story arcs. Now, Saigon, this is taking place just before the Tet Offensive, essentially, this episode. And it has a multiple different character arcs. We have Anderson meets with his kind of ex-wife to try and patch things up, although she's got some bad news for him. We've got Goldman's kind of initial start of his kind of relationship with Alex Devlin. We've got Purcell and his kind of start of his kind of downward spiral. He's just kind of feeling the pressure, ultimately having to kind of lie about things all the time, and to the press, etc., and all that kind of stuff. We also get Ruiz, who is basically looking after a kind of a new recruiter, Cherry, and Cherry gets killed, and Ruiz takes it pretty badly. And then we got Johnson and Taylor trying to find riches in buying this kind of new hotel. So we get all these kind of different storylines that kind of set up over this kind of 2-episode kind of arc. So the action is reasonably kind of light. We get a little bit of a mission at the beginning of the movie. This kind of shows you McKay as this kind of like hot dog kind of pilot who kind of saves the platoon and all of this. Other than that, it's a lot more kind of like setting up kind of these new kind of status quo with all these kind of sort of characters. So it's a little bit more of a talky episode, a little bit more of a dramatic kind of feel to it. So you definitely do feel the changing kind of tone here. I actually do like the fact that we have a kind of a city-based kind of couple of episodes. You know, the Saigon Part 1 and 2. Gives it a kind of a different feel, although they kind of do have a few other elements involved as well. So that kind of gave it a little bit of a fresh coat of paint. Really, I kind of quite like that. And it's at this point you've kind of got to know our characters pretty well, and I do actually acknowledge the fact that this season does, I think, flesh out the characters maybe more than the first kind of season did. We do get a kind of quite an emotive scene, I've got to say, with Ruiz, who is really kind of taking the death of this new recruit pretty bad. I thought those kind of scenes were excellent, and he's kind of falling back more into his kind of like his religion and things like this. You know, we sort of see the crack starting to kind of like happen with Purcell. So the dramatic stuff here is reasonably good, but it does feel more soap opera-y. There's no kind of doubt about it. Having watched this whole series a few times, you know, in the past and rewatching it now, I was never a huge fan of the Alex Devlin character, to be honest with you. Nothing necessarily wrong with the performance here, but the way she was written, she always just seemed to be in the right place at the kind of the right time. I read some interviews with basically some Vietnam vets who had watched this show, and they basically kind of said, like, you know, they'd never seen this amount of women in Vietnam, especially kind of like Caucasian or American women and things like that. Because we do get a few others pop up as well. So, you know, the decision here to kind of try and appeal to more of a kind of a female audience, I think may have kind of, you know, not helped in the kind of the realism factor in regards to what these you know, what was considered to be, you know, a good representation of, you know, the brothers in battle and the brothers in war and all this kind of stuff. There's also some horrible editing in this particular episode. At the beginning of the episode, we see this firefight where McKay's chopper decides he's going to turn back and help the squad. And there is some horrendous editing in this particular sequence where we see clearly kind of different kind of shots and different kind of even a different helicopter. There's one quick sequence where the helicopter is a completely different make to the normal kind of Huey that is being sort of flown in this kind of episode. But, you know, different kind of like foliage and clearly different kind of landscapes and stuff, all kind of edited together, really kind of choppily, I have to say. So yeah, some editing issues with this one, I'm going to say, and it is a relatively slow episode, definitely kind of leaning more into the drama. I'd be honest with you, I wasn't a huge fan of this one. To be honest, I just found it a little bit too soapy. Some of the kind of the sequences looked a little bit too like set and things like that. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. To me, it was somewhat of a kind of a mediocre first start to the season, I think. But obviously, this change of direction may be a little jarring. Although, how the rest of this season pan out, we'll talk about it. So that was Season 2, Episode 1, Saigon Part 1. Thanks for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.